Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and incidents in pop culture to see how those incidents may or may not affect our daily lives. Y'all make sure y'all get in, and make sure you hit that like button as you come in. And if you like what you see, subscribe. Y'all, trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. This live stream will review stories with incidents of domestic violence and sexual assault. If you or someone you know needs help, contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1 800 799 7233, or the Sexual Assault Hotline, 1 800 656 4673. Y'all, y'all. Looks like Club Shay Shay's proprietor, Shannon Sharpe, has been sued for assault, people. He has been sued for assault. I have a copy of the lawsuit, but I will go over a couple of articles and then I will go over the lawsuit. I think it's about 14 pages. And then we will come back for that. Hey, 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 Dre. Hey, hey, hey. Thank you for showing up. So, again, y'all hit that like button. So, let's go in on this. Let's go over. We're going to go to NBC News. Ciao. Pro Football Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe accused of SA in a lawsuit. It says here a woman accused Pro Football Hall of Famer and podcaster Shannon Sharpe of assaulting and battering her and using his fame to manipulate, control, subjugate, and violate women in a Nevada lawsuit. The woman says she was 19 years old in 2023 when she first met Shannon Sharpe, 56, in a Los Angeles gym, leading to a rocky, consensual relationship of nearly 2 years in which she was frequently aggressive and ard, where he frequently aggressive and ard her, the civil complaint filed in the state court in Clark County alleges. The plaintiff accuses Sharpe of failing to stop his action despite her saying no, according to complaint. After many months of manipulating and controlling plaintiff, a woman more than 30 years younger than he, and repeatedly threatening to brutally choke, violently slap, and Sharpe refused to accept the answer of no, and he arred plaintiff despite her sobbings and repeated screams of no, the complaint alleges. The plaintiff accuses Sharpe of twice R-ing her in Las Vegas in October, ignoring her request for him to stop, and of doing so and again in January, according to the lawsuit. In a statement, Sharpe's attorney said his client and the woman's relationship was consensual and sexual in nature, and in many cases initiated by her with specific and graphic requests. The statement includes text messages it alleges the woman sent to Sharpe, which are graphic sexually in nature, in which she is alleged to consent to sex. The suit is a blatant and cynical attempt to shake down Mr. Sharpe for millions of dollars. It is filed with lies, distortions, and misrepresentations and will not succeed, Lanny Davis, Sharpe's counsel, in the statement. The complaint alleges that Sharpe insisted on recording these encounters, sometimes without the plaintiff's knowledge or consent, claiming they were for his personal use. Instead, he went on multiple occasions, shared the videos with his friends and associates, the suit say. At one point, uh, Sharpe forced the woman to have sex with him as he FaceTimed one of his childhood friends, according to the suit. Hey, Kat, I just saw you in here. How you do? How you do? How you do? That's what it says. We're going to go over the lawsuit. We're definitely going to go over it and see what's going on. Whenever plaintiff would get up the courage to object to Sharpe's outrageous conduct, which was not often, he would aggressively and angrily put her back in her place, end quote. Davis' statements alleges that the woman presented Sharpe with a secretly recording of a consensual encounter in an effort to extract a large financial settlement. We believe the video has been heavily edited and taken entirely out of context. crafted to falsely portray a consensual act as non consensual. So we won't go in there. We've got the gist of what this lawsuit is talking about. Now, if you're not familiar with Shannon Sharpe was an NFL football player. He's notably known to play for the Denver Broncos for years. He is also an NFL Hall of Fame. What was he? What did he play? Wide? No, he didn't play wide receiver. Tight end. That's what he played. He played tight end back in there. Now, he also, after he finished in the NFL, Shannon Sharpe went on to commentate, and he was on a show with Skip Bayless, seemed like for years. They had a falling out. He is known as the proprietor of Club Shay Shay, a very popular YouTube show. And he's also on a show with Chad Ochocinco at night. I can't remember right now what the name of that particular podcast is. So he's very successful in sports commentary, and he's successful on YouTube. You know, he interviews a whole lot of different guests and things like that. Uh, Here recently, if you all remember, he had Cat Williams on his show at the beginning of Nightcap. That's the show he did with, thank you, Dre. Nightcap was the show that he does with Ocho Cinco. But recently, if you're familiar with him, you know, his podcast and his YouTube show really was catapulted into fame with the infamous Cat Williams interview back at the top of 2014, where Williams kind of predicted a lot of these people who have all these deviancies will be exposed. So we're going to go over this lawsuit. There's other different articles about that. I know that Shannon Sharpe has made a statement on his Instagram. I will read the statement. I won't put it on the screen because there is a name that was placed on here, and I'm not sure if this is the person or not. And I don't want to put somebody's name out there if that's not what the business is. All right. And here's this it's a statement by Lanny J. Davis, counsel to Shannon Sharpe. It says here, in a quote, "I want you to put a dog collar around my neck and choke me with it while you are effing me." And this is from a text messages from Jane Doe to Shannon Sharpe on October 7th, 2023. Another quote is, "I know you miss this big juicy ass. Mm. 25K for each cheek." And this was in a text message that was sent to Shannon Sharpe on January 1st, 2025. Darn, they got it down to the time at 9:50 p.m. and 19 seconds. This lawsuit filed by plaintiff and orchestrated by her attorney Tony Busby, is a blatant and cynical attempt to shake down Mr. Sharpe for millions of dollars. It is filled with lies, distortions, misrepresentations, and will not succeed. In an effort to extract a large financial settlement, plaintiff presented Mr. Sharpe with a secretly recorded video of a consensual sexual encounter. We believe the video has been heavily edited and taken entirely out of context. Crafted to falsely portray a consensual act as non consensual. Plaintiff has refused to provide a copy of the full unedited version of the recording to Mr. Sharpe's legal team. To set the record straight, we are releasing several of plaintiff's own explicit text messages to Mr. Sharpe that clearly indicate the nature of their relationship was consensual and sexual in nature, and in many cases initiated by her with specific and graphic requests. Contrary to the allegation she makes in her lawsuit, consensual sex continued until January 2nd, 2025, the day after she asked for 25K per cheek, as quoted above from her text message to Mr. Sharpe. There are other examples of text from plaintiff, for example. "Only if you put that baby gravy in me, then I can do whatever I want. Whatever I want to. You can do whatever you want to with me." This is a text from the plaintiff to Shannon Sharpe on November 23rd, 2023. "I want to put my tongue." Ooh, she want to talk. She want to eat it like the groceries, y'all, and then marry you. Another text is, "That's my daddy F. I want you to put a big black baby in me." That's another text. This was sent on August 6th, 2024. It says, "You better crave it because you're going to be stuck with it for life after you put a big black baby in me." Y'all, let me just tell y'all something as I continue to read this. It's not giving me an indication that this person is of my persuasion. And so these things are they're not unusual, but I just, it sounds very fetishish to me, but I'm just reading what I'm reading. These messages are just a sample of a broader pattern of graphic, actual communications initiated by plaintiff. The evidence paints a clear picture. This was a consensual adult relationship that included role playing, sexual language, and fantasy scenarios. So, and then they go on and talk about the edited tape. We're not going to get into that. What we are going to get into, what we are going to go over, because we going to see what was added. Cuckoo. Let's see. Let me see how I make this bigger. All right. So here is the suit. And it was filed on 420 at 10:25 p.m. And the clerk of court has its case number and everything. And cat, I see he has his Pro Hoc Vice forthcoming on here, because I guess he's not gonna get slipped up like he got slipped up on that Jay-Z case, and he didn't have all of that information put forth. Hold on, y'all. There we go. All right. So it was, well, you all can read that. I just saw that because, again, with Tony Busby, uh I hadn't even got to his Instagram post. We gonna read this. We're gonna read this thing right here, because in the Eighth Judicial District Court of the state of Nevada and in for the county of Clark, Jane Doe, an individual plaintiff, versus Shannon Sharpe, an individual defendant, original complaint and jury demand. All right. Plaintiff Jane Doe complains of defendant Shannon Sharpe, and for the cause of action, we respectfully show this honorable court the following. So we've got 14 pages, so we've got enough time. I think we can do this in under an hour. Introduction. A woman can say yes to consensual sexual relations with a man 99 times, but when she says no, even once, that no means no. Defendant Shannon Sharpe, a man who is accustomed to getting what he wants, completely fails to understand this basic concept. After many months of manipulating and controlling plaintiff, a woman more than 30 years younger than he, and repeatedly threatening to brutally choke and violently slap her, Sharpe refused to accept the answer no, and our plaintiff, despite her sobbings and repeated screams of no. Defendant Shannon Sharpe is a 56-year-old former NFL superstar. He claims to be one of the most successful sports media personalities in the country. Plaintiff is a young woman in her early 20s. In 2023, Plaintiff was working out at a gym in Los Angeles, California, when Sharpe approached her for the first time. Previously, Doe had noticed Sharpe watching her during her workouts. At this time, Doe was just 19 years old. At the time, she did not know who he was, only that he was another older man ogling her at the gym. Well, damn. Not the ogling. Doe could tell Sharpe was much older than her. She found him physically intimidating. Eventually, he introduced himself, and at his determined insistence, she gave him her number. Over the next couple of weeks, Sharp incessantly pursued plaintiff. He constantly approached her at the gym and attempted to contact her frequently with phone calls and text messages, asking to meet up, unwilling to take no for an answer. Eventually, plaintiff gave in and agreed to meet up with Sharp outside the gym. However, before doing so, Sharp demanded that Doe signed a non-disclosure agreement or NDA, something plaintiff found a bit concerning. She wondered why Sharp was so insistent on her signing an NDA. She refused. Despite his repeated efforts to get her to sign, she refused time and time again. Eventually, he dropped the issue and invited her to his house. What followed was the beginning of a rocky consensual relationship that lasted nearly 2 years. The relationship was very unequal. Sharp is more than 30 years older, is considerably wealthier, a physically much larger and exponentially stronger. Sharp is famous and has power. Plaintiffs and Sharp saw each other on his terms and on his schedule as often as 4 times a week. Over time, Plaintiff began to see Sharp's true nature. She found him to be dishonest about his whereabouts. He would lie about seeing other women while insisting to her that she and him were exclusive. I wonder where Michelle's come in from that, because y'all remember the infamous video that came out, when was this, last year? Where he claimed he didn't know how to work Instagram Live, when you got to go through 30 steps to get through Instagram Live, just to go live. And he said he didn't understand, and he in there huffing and puffing like a wildebeest over there over Michelle. Y'all remember that? He often manipulated her, at times being sweet and loving to get what he wanted, and at other times being angry and aggressive to achieve his goals. She discovered over time that Sharp was extremely emotional and possessed an uncontrollable temper. He displayed the characteristics of a true narcissist. He wielded his power, his influence, and his celebrity to control plaintiff and get exactly what he wanted whenever he wanted it, all the while jealously guarding what he considered his for himself. Excuse me. By October 2024, Sharp's behavior had grown progressively worse, beyond anything plaintiff had experienced with him before. At this point, he was insistent upon recording their activities of the sexual nature, sometimes without her knowledge. Sharp was also sharing the videos with others without her permission or knowledge. Sharp would repeatedly tell Doe that he wanted to do to her things that would make no other man want her. Tony Busby, he's not a very thorough. He gets so quick about doing stuff. He's not very thorough on the stuff that he does. That sounds like she was wanting to come over, but he wasn't letting her at first. Interesting. Exactly, Kat. Plus her. Not super sus, Quentin. Super sus. To make no other man want her. Interesting. What does that mean? So for the men that are in my chat, what does that mean? Make he would make no other man want. What could be done that no other man would want? I'm curious by that the whole statement. That's interesting to hear. By this point, Sharp was no longer able to credibly maintain the relationship was exclusive. He had at this point accidentally or purposely to advance his career, went live on Instagram while having sex with another woman. Sharp flew into fits of anger when plaintiff noted his infidelity to their relationship. I just talked about that earlier. Or called him out about his extraneous activities. What had once been manipulation, control, and intimidation now became something far more dangerous and sinister. Sharp even figured out how to get into Doe's apartment complex without her permission. Sharp made it clear that what Doe wanted was of no moment. Wait a minute. Sharp made it clear that what Doe wanted was of no moment, that Sharp would get what he wanted when he wanted. Sharp made it clear that what Doe wanted was of no moment, that Sharp would get what he wanted when he wanted it. In October 24, that they probably spell check, but they didn't do any grammatical checkings on that because that sentence makes sense. It sounds like what they were trying to say, that Sharp made it clear that what Doe wanted was of no consequence, that Sharp would get what he wanted when he wanted it. That's what it seems like to me, but that's not how it's reading. In October 2024, Shannon Sharpe violently sexually assaulted and anally AR'd plaintiff two different times in Las Vegas, Nevada, blatantly ignoring her requests for him to stop. He did it again in January. Plaintiff left Nevada to temporarily escape defendant Shannon Sharpe. Now she seeks justice through this action and other means. Plaintiff seeks compensatory and punitive damages in the matter in the excess of $50 million. So we have the parties, plaintiff Jane Doe. She's an individual residing in Clark County, Nevada. Is this where Shannon Sharpe? Oh, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I was just about to say, is this where he lives? He's an individual and residing in Clark County. He's reserving this. Let's not put his address out there. My apologies. I didn't realize that. Both defendant and plaintiff reside here, I guess, in the jurisdiction. The relief requested is within the minimum jurisdictional limits of this court. Pursuant to Nevada law, venue is proper in Clark County, Nevada. This is the county where defendant resides, and the acts and events, transactions, and omissions that form the basis of this lawsuit occurred in whole or part in Clark County, Nevada. This is interesting because I'm hearing a lot of people who lived in California, they're all moving out of California because to move to Las Vegas, Nevada, I think it's less than a 30-minute plane ride to get to California to do your work and everything like that, because they're saying that living in California is really too expensive, particularly with this mansion tax that's supposedly running the rich people out of there. That there's some kind of tax that they get paid, extra property tax, I guess, that they pay or something. I'm not really sure about all the ins and outs of it, but this is about the second or third time that I've seen people who we once knew that lived in California is no longer living in California. They have taken up residence in Nevada. And like I said, Las Vegas to Los Angeles, as I think, is probably less than less than an hour's plane ride. And so it is quite feasible that you can go to work all day and then get back on a plane and go home. Defendant Shannon Sharpe is a former NFL superstar and well-known sports media personality. After a 14-season career in the NFL, he's considered by some to be one of the greatest tight ends of all time. He is a three-time Super Bowl champion and was recently inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. And this is when he played, and this is when he was inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. Upon retirement, Sharpe transitioned into sports broadcasting, quickly achieving success in the industry. Sharpe spent several years at CBS Sports before moving to Fox, where over a decade, he built a reputation for his strong opinions and hot takes. In 2023, Sharpe joined ESPN, where he remains employed today. In addition to working at ESPN's First Take, Sharpe hosts his own widely followed podcast, interviewing high-profile athletes, entertainers, and public figures. Sharpe claims he makes as much as $6 million from one episode of his podcast, and is alleged to be signing a multi-million-dollar deal with the Volume Media Group. Sharpe's legacy extends beyond the field and media, and in one glaring area, it is not good. Sharpe has a documented history of abusing and mistreating women. Interesting. I didn't know that. As an example, he is currently a defendant in a lawsuit before the Supreme Court of New York, facing claims from a woman of intentionally infliction of emotional distress, among other allegations. Many of the factual allegations in the New York case are eerily similar to his action towards plaintiff here. I'll look that up. according to the New York lawsuit. And you would know that Tony Busby would know a whole bunch of weird lawsuits going because he gives me harm, but he gives me one of this like he's like, oh, they got money. Ooh, let me figure this out. 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 He gives me that. He's won a case and now he's completely obsessed. According to the New York lawsuit, Sharp forcibly subdued the plaintiff in that case, forcing her to her knees and subjecting her to non consensual oral sex despite her repeated protests. When she resisted, he persisted. He would not take no for an answer. According to the New York lawsuit, the plaintiff therein feared for her safety, just as plaintiff fears for her safety now. The New York lawsuit further alleges that Sharp escalated to non consensual vaginal penetration, all while telling her that he would make it so no other man would want her. These words are apparently not a one time thing. Plaintiff herein too has heard Sharp say those exact words to her. Well, damn, that's disconcerting. Mm. Michelle, he was on tape with, yes. Now I don't know who this part. I don't know if that's her name, and I don't know if who. I don't know full name, but I know he called her name Michelle. Right? He allegedly said he got more money on the way. Yeah, because that now I don't know if he makes $6 million per episode, but I know that Cat Williams episode probably because he not only had the full episode that had millions of views, he chopped that sucker up and different things, and those pieces of that interview he chopped up, and those had millions of views. So I could see in that episode that he clearly made a lot of money. More money, more problems. I wasn't there and I don't know, but it's funny that this is coming out after the $100 million contract. Has he signed that contract yet? Because I heard he was in negotiations for it. I didn't know that he had signed it. All right. Okay. In September 2024, Sharp live streamed himself, quote on accident, having sex with a woman. Upon information and belief, he did so on purpose to seek media exposure and to attract social media views and attention. To live stream himself, he would have had to deliberately swipe right on Instagram to activate the live feed. Sharp claims it was accidental. However, discreetly recording sex without his partner's knowledge is something that he's known to do, and he did so with the plaintiff herein. And I gave him the side eye on that because again, to go live on Instagram it there's it's like a 2 or 3 step process. You just don't get there, you truly just don't get there with just you dropping your phone somewhere. You've got to swipe, then you got to swipe a little bit more to get to the live button, then you got to press the live button, then it asks you to confirm whether or not you want to go live, and then you hit the button and you go live. That's if you're just going to go live for Instagram. Now, if you're a content creator and you try to go live on Instagram, it's a lot of Harry Potter expoliosis or whatever to get to go live, because you can have the code key and everything and it's still difficult to go live. It's just best to go get you a whole nother phone and go live or something like that. But so I gave him the side eye on that, like he didn't know that this was going live, because it's just that's too many steps for a butt dial. But let's continue. Well, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, we couldn't figure out, because that was I would say this just to, I gave it the side eye because I couldn't understand what he was doing on. And then when he did his show with the nightcap, you saw him selling and hawking these erectile functioning pills or things like that. So I couldn't tell if it was an overall kind of campaign to be able to booster the fact that you can sell, you can have those pills or not. I really couldn't tell if he was doing that for not. But yeah, these are types of things that are happening, and I do want to go look up this New York case to see what's going on. And it is and to your point, Dre, it is within the time frame that you could go and file a police report in regards to this. Plaintiff discovered that Sharp had been secretly recording their encounters without her consent. When she confronted him, he summarily dismissed her concerns, claiming the videos were for his own personal use. That too was a lie. Upon information and belief, Sharp on multiple occasions shared the recording with his friends and associates. At one point, he even forced plaintiffs to have sex with him while FaceTiming on one of his childhood friends named Bucket. At one point, he even forced plaintiff to have sex with him while FaceTiming one of his childhood friends named Bucket. Damn, Bucket into this now. Whenever plaintiff would get up the courage to object to Sharp's outrageous conduct, which was not often, he would aggressively and angrily put her back in her place. Shannon Sharpe is not just a sports icon, he's something far worse. He is a flawed, narcissistic individual who has spent years using his fame, power, and influence to manipulate, control, subjugate, and violate women. With this suit, plaintiff intends to put an end to this egregious conduct. Yeah, because that used to be a big, I think with what you remember his stylist, and he took his stylist to one of the basketball games, and I think that was a big issue for them. Yeah, and they don't put Bucket in all this. Bucket now up in here. Now Bucket got to testify. I mean, it's something. If it ain't Ocho Cinco getting surgery so his stuff will hang to his knees, it's Shannon Sharp with all of this going on. On January 2023, the beginning of a consensual but deeply manipulative relationship. Sharp first met plaintiff at a Los Angeles gym in early 2023. Sharp would deliberately watch Doe in such a way to make sure she knew he was watching her. One day, as plaintiff finished a set and turned around, she found Sharp standing inches behind her. Sharp told her he had noticed her at the gym and wondered why she had not introduced herself. This was the first time they spoke. Plaintiff at the time, who had just turned 20 years old, was caught off guard and was face to face with a 54-year-old man she had never met. And I thought he had a hip surgery. I thought he did like Prince and had a new hip. What's really going on with Shannon Sharp? Plaintiff did not know at the time who Shannon Sharpe was. She did not know what to say nor how to feel about his advances. During their first conversation, Sharpe proposed a challenge, a competition to see who could lean out faster. The prize? If plaintiff won, he would buy her fake tits. Plaintiff was stunned. The implication that she needed or wanted such a thing was wildly inappropriate. Hearing it from a stranger more than 30 years her seniors made it even more disturbing. Throughout their subsequent encounters at the gym, Sharp made sure plaintiff understood who he was, a celebrity and TV personality. Over the following week, Sharp made himself unavoidable. He was at the gym when she was. He constantly called and texted demanding she come to his Beverly Glen mansion. Plaintiff repeatedly declined and made up excuses to make her seem too busy to see him, but he would not stop. Sharp would not be deterred. Eventually, plaintiff gave in, but before she could meet him outside of the gym, Sharp made another demand. She had to sign a non disclosure agreement, an NDA. He refused to explain why and would not let her see a copy of the proposed agreement. He simply insisted she sign one. Plaintiff refused. After multiple attempts, when he realized she would not cooperate, he finally dropped the issue. Revealed from the start the violent, aggressive, and controlling nature of Shannon Sharp. The first night Plaintiff went to Sharp's house. The experience was unlike anything she had dealt with before, disturbing, unsettling, and giving his subsequent conduct very illuminating. When plaintiff arrived at his house, Sharp opened the door to his Beverly Glen mansion without a word. No greeting, no acknowledgement, no small talk. Without so much as looking at plaintiff, he simply turned away from her after opening the door and walked upstairs. Plaintiff hesitated but followed as she did not know what else to do or where else to go. When they reached the bedroom, Sharp pointed to the bed before disappearing into the bathroom and shutting the door behind him. He still had not said a word. Child, at that point, you should have went down them steps, opened that front door, got outside, went into your car, and drove off. Unless, the gate didn't open. But I would have been leaning heavy on that horn until he came out there and he opened that gate. Plaintiff sat on the bed, waiting, unsure of what to expect or should she leave. Yes, ladies, let me be very, very clear with y'all. If you all get to a situation where you're unsure, it is appropriate for you to leave. He went into the bathroom. You had appropriate enough time to walk out that door, go down them steps, open that front door, go out that door, get in your car or however you got into that car. If you got to the gate, if there was a gate and you couldn't leave, then you lean on the hoard in your car with your doors locked, with your windows up, and with your cell phone ready. If you do not open this gate, I will call the police so that you can open the gate then. That gate would have opened. Now, I'm not victim blaming, but I do want us to be very conscious of the fact that just because you go somewhere, again, ladies, you have a fight or flight risk. That it kicked in when you walked into that room and sat on that bed. So you should have used and trust your instincts and gotten out of there. So this is not a knock on this person. This is just because you all swear us older ladies don't try to tell y'all nothing. But I'm telling you now, make sure that you leave the place. Because at that point, you had the ability to be free to leave. Go ahead and leave. We give too much grace to people that don't deserve the grace because we don't want them to think that we think that they are this type of way. Forget that. Your spidey senses were tingling and you should have gotten up off that bed. You're not that confused. You're not that confused. Plaintiff sat on the bed, waiting, unsure of what to expect or should she leave. Roughly 5 minutes later, he finally emerged, but still he said nothing. Instead, he turned off all the lights and lay down on his bed. Plaintiff, uncomfortable and unsure what to do, lay down as well. Baby, use a booty call. Don't do that. Leave, 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 ladies, leave. For roughly 10 minutes, there was nothing but silence. Then, without warning, Sharp placed his hands on plaintiff's neck from behind, pressed his erect penis against her body, and said his first words of the night: I knew from the time I saw you that I was going to fuck you. Now, I don't have any kind of impetus. Was he naked when he came to bed? Doe and Sharp then engaged in oral sex. As they did so, Doe said at some point realized Sharp was using his phone. He was apparently recording her. Plaintiff could see that he was trying to be discreet, but it was obvious what he was doing. She said nothing, scared to confront him for what he might do or say. When it ended, he rolled over and went to sleep. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, y'all. It wasn't a laughter like ha ha. It was just a laughter like what the hell? All right, let me continue. Let me compose myself. At some point later during the night, Sharp woke up, grabbed plaintiff by her vagina, and began having sex with her. The next morning, Sharp woke at roughly 4 a.m. to shoot a media segment for sports television. He woke plaintiff up as well and told her she needed to leave, but informed her that she had to be back by 9 p.m. exactly. The following night, plaintiff arrived at Sharp's house at approximately 9:05, just 5 minutes past the time that he demanded. The moment he opened the door, plaintiff experienced his rage for the first time. Sharp immediately launched into a verbal assault. He screamed at plaintiff, berated her for what felt like hours. He accused her of disrespecting him, wasting his time, and warned that if she wanted to be with the Shannon Sharpe, she would have to learn obedience. Plaintiff was terrified and feared for her physical state. Still enraged, Sharp turned off all the lights, grabbed her neck, and just like the night before, began having intercourse with her. This cycle of control, fear, and submission became routine. You're not gonna cuss me out and then I'm gonna give you my coochie. You just not that's just that for me is just not happening. Yelling at her, controlling her, forcibly grabbing her by the neck, and when he got upset, saying that he was going to prune her from the timeline and asserting dominance became the norm. Over the next year and a half, plaintiff saw Sharp at his house as often as 4 times a week. Sharp continued to treat her like an object. He continued to control her, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. He demanded complete control over her time and her body, expecting her to be at his house on his schedule, at his command, whenever he called. The verbal abuse never stopped. He would berate and degrade plaintiff just as he had from the beginning. One time specifically, he was yelling at her while there was a firearm visible in his room. Terrified for her safety, plaintiff tried sharing her location with friends from her iPhone just in case, but Sharp saw her do this. The moment he realized what she was doing, he grabbed her by the neck and told her, "If you ever do that again, I will effing kill you." Summer 2024, Sharp control turns abusive. The relationship becomes fearful and non-consensual. So before I read that, let's see what you all are talking about. Frank says, "What a poor damsel accept a date from a dastardly cad. Using the phone is not cool, but she seems strange. From what he said on his podcast, he don't like all that." Ooh, what doesn't he like? Let me know, loyalty. Sounds odd. It does, Frank. All right, let's continue. And tell me what he said on his podcast that he don't like, because I hadn't seen it. So I'm interested to hear what he had to say. Sharp's aggression and rage continued to escalate to the point that plaintiff's friends began to fear for her safety. For example, when plaintiff was with her friends, they could hear Sharp yelling at her over the phone and would ask her if she was safe and if she was okay. In the summer of 2024, plaintiff and Sharp each moved to Las Vegas for their own reasons. Sharp liked to say that the plaintiff followed him to Las Vegas, but that too is a lie. Once in Vegas, Sharp again insisted that plaintiff sign an NDA. She refused, and again he persisted. But after enough resistance, he let it go and continued seeing her multiple times a week. His behavior did not change. He remained erratic, controlling, verbally abusive, and all while telling plaintiff that he was committed to a sexual exclusive relationship with her. That's interesting to me. Again, I was telling you all before, but it doesn't sound like he got rid of his it doesn't sound, well, I don't know if he did or not. But I know that people were moving out of Los Angeles because it gets too expensive. Excuse me. But with him in his financial status, I don't know if that's the case or not. I don't know. I'm not trying to pocket watch or anything like that. But it is interesting. I do know a lot of people I know personally have moved from Los Angeles. They've sold up their houses and then they've moved over to Las Vegas and they were getting more bang for their buck. Sharp liked to say that well, we've read all of that. Then in September 2024, Sharp humiliated plaintiff. He live streamed himself having sex with another woman on Instagram for over 1.1 million followers to see. We didn't see nothing, but we did hear it. He later made jest of the incident on his podcast, Club Shay Shay and Show Nightcap. But for plaintiff, it was anything but funny. He had repeatedly assured her that they were in an exclusive relationship, albeit unhealthy and abusive. This was a lie that not only hurt her emotionally, it made her fear for her health, her sexual health, and the risk of transmitted diseases. So let me break some things down for you, ladies. If you are in or find yourself in a relationship with a man and there's a 30 something year age gap, uh, it's a foregone conclusion that this man has had several sexual partners, and that you being concerned about your sexual health should have started when you started to engage in that relationship with this man. At that point, plaintiff began to pull away from Sharp. She stopped answering his phone calls and stopped telling him where she was and when he demanded to know. Plaintiff's feeble attempts at freedom and independence further upset Sharp. He began flooding her phone with calls, demanding to know where she was. That's going to be interesting because there should be records of that. He called relentlessly multiple times an hour. The harassment became so unbearable. Plaintiff frequently began leaving Nevada, determined to cut off communication, resist his efforts to control her, and attempt to reclaim some control of his life. You should have blocked him at this point. You could have blocked his phone. You had an iPhone. You could have blocked his calls and then nothing would have come through. It took courage for plaintiffs to make this effort. She remained terrified even though she was thousands of miles away. Sharp simply would not accept independence or freedom for plaintiff. On October 2024, just after plaintiff returned from Europe, Sharp's behavior became more angry, aggressive, and now violent. So here we have, how far are we? We're on page 10. Very good. October 6, 2024, Sharp assaulted and R's plaintiff and threatens, I'm going to make it so no man will ever want you again. Y'all, what does that mean? Please tell me. And I'm being very serious because I've never heard anybody say anything like that. I've never heard anybody utter that phrase before. I don't know what can you do for that to happen? Because I'm thinking in my head a lot of physical bruises or something. I'm thinking about that. I don't know. Y'all let me know if y'all understand what that phrase means. On October 6, 2024, plaintiff was working out at a Nevada gym following her usual routine. As she worked out, she saw Sharp aggressively approaching her. She could tell by his look and the way he moved quickly towards her that he was furious for having been ignored. As soon as he got close, he told her, "Sit the F down or I'm going to kill you." Plaintiff refused. "I don't want to talk to you. You cheated on me." His response was dismissive and controlling as usual. "You don't have a choice." Sharp demanded that they talk in private. Again, plaintiff told him no. She made it clear she did not want to talk to him, be alone with him, or want him coming to her home. But Sharp didn't care. He never took no for an answer. Sharp forced plaintiff under threat to get into his car and go to her house. Once Sharp was inside her apartment, plaintiff tried to keep the conversation in the living room, but Sharp refused. He demanded that they go to the bedroom. She said no. He didn't listen, nor did he care. Once inside the bedroom, he grabbed her from behind and forcibly positioned her to form oral X. He held her in place and then forced her to begin performing. He became even angry and said, "You've disrespected me so much. I'm going to punish damn, this a-hole. I'm going to make it so no man will want you again." Never mind. He's giving me this stuff. Because at this point, let me see. No man will ever say that. That's cap. I just don't. Let's see. Let me go back. I'm missing something. Sounds odd. It does, Frank. All the extra stuff. Trey Mac recast a call will win. I hope so. And she didn't go to the conference. It's like a bad fiction so far. Because to take her to put her in the car, that's holding her against the wheel. Once you got into the car and drove off, that's kidnapping. Once you got into the house, so there's about 4 or 5 charges. Yeah, this is because this happened last year, so she's still within um, the window that she can do this. So let's continue. Plaintiff at this point was crying and sobbing, tears streaming down her face as Sharp repositioned her and took her from behind and inserted his penis into her anus. As he forcibly anal raped her, he said, "Turn around and look at me." Sharp grabbed her head, forcing her to look at him as she sobbed. He said at that point, "Look at this. Look at my arm. I've got chills. That's how good this is." Sharp forced himself onto the plaintiff, awed her despite her sobbing in agony as it happened. He told her in the moment she was crying that the experience was so good he was giving him chills. Sharp's behavior demonstrated that he believed plaintiff to be his personal property, possession, and owned by him. He also believed that the laws did not apply to him, that he could take whatever he wanted, and that no one or could stop him. He was and is wrong. Let's see. So on January 2025, this happened again. On January 2nd, 2025, Sharp told plaintiff he wanted to see her. Sharp persisted and reminded plaintiff that he had a combined Christmas and birthday gift to give her, as he previously promised her a gift. She ultimately allowed her to come over to her apartment. She regrets that decision. I know she did, because there is no Christmas and birthday gift that you can give me to make me come back to my house after what you said that you've done to me. Once inside her apartment, he began undressing. Plaintiff firmly stated multiple times that they would not have X without protection, demanding that he wear a condom. She knew that in the past he refused to ever use condoms and believed that her demand would stop him from having X with her. But although he refused, she still insisted on sex. She tried to resist. She screamed. She had already expressed concern for her safety, knowing that he had been involved with other women, increasing the risk of transmitting a disease. The more she begged, Sharp became more aggressive and made it clear he would not wear a condom, and he was going to have his way with her. He grabbed her, pulling her in position to perform oral sex, in which she lasted for roughly 2 minutes. Then he repositioned her and roughly forced himself inside her. Plaintiff never stopped demanding and begging that he stopped and put on a condom. He ignored her. As soon as he penetrated her, plaintiff screamed and sobbed. Her cries for help did nothing to stop the assault. It lasted roughly for 10 minutes, with Sharp uh, relieving himself inside of her. She cried and begged for him to stop. She left Nevada after the assault. Plaintiff brings this cause of action to this honorable court to recover damages as outlined below. It is imperative that Shannon Sharpe and those like him are held accountable for their actions to prevent them from engaging in further sexual sodomy and harm clause. Okay. First claim for release: assault, sexual assault, battery, and sexual battery. He hereby incorporates each of the foregoing paragraphs as fully set forth herein as alleged. Uh, let's see. Here we go. Sharp's conduct approximately caused injury to the plaintiff, sustained and will sustain pain and suffering, psychological and emotional distress, mental anguish, embarrassment, and humiliation. Accordingly, plaintiff is entitled to recovery against defendant for damages proximately caused by defendant's conduct in an amount to be determined as trial. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Plaintiff realleges the aforementioned and alleged allegations as fully incorporated below. Sharp engaged in conduct that is extremely extreme and outrageous, so as to exceed the bounds of decency in a civilized society. Namely, he caused plaintiff to experience mental suffering by causing her to worry about her safety and well-being. Time and time again, he reinforced that fear with verbal threats. Sharp engaged in this conduct and intentionally, knowingly, and willfully. His conduct proximately caused injury to plaintiff with the psychological, emotional, and mental anguish, embarrassment, and humiliation. According to plaintiff, Accordingly, plaintiff is entitled to recovery against the defendant for damages proximately caused by defendant's conduct in the amount to be determined as trial. They're demanding a jury trial, and here's the prayer for relief. They have general damages in the sum of 10 million, Special damages 10 million, punitive damage in sum of in the excess of 20 million, and statutory penalties in the sum of excess of 10 million. Declarations of rights are set forth above: attorney fees and cost of litigation, interest at the statutory rate, such as other and further relief in court deems reasonable under the premises. And so they just have the signatures when it was dated. This is the lawsuit. That's a thing. The Busby law firm. He's it's coming that he's going to file so that he can legally try this case in that state. So we will see. So that is the complaint. I do not see any, there is not any attachments. So I don't see any attachments. And Kat was talking about Busby's Instagram page. Late last night, the Busby, so here's his Instagram page. Late last night, the Busby law firm filed a civil lawsuit on behalf of a brave young woman who alleges that she was brutally assaulted by former NFL player Shannon Sharpe on multiple occasions. The last incident occurred in January 2025. The lawsuit, filed under the pseudonym Jane Doe, lays out a pattern of intimidation and abuse, including allegations that Sharpe repeatedly threatened to choke and slap Jane Doe. The case seeks $50 million in damages. The case is on file in Department 11, Clark County State Court, Nevada, the county where all the alleged conduct occurred. The egregious and concerning facts of the case are set forth in detail in the public filing. I am extremely proud to represent Jane Doe. It takes a great deal of courage to stand up against those with power, fame, and money. I look forward to pressing this in court. So, what do y'all think? Let me see what's going on in these comments. This is 100% lie. Okay. I hate when they lose to get money. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And we all can go back and forth. This is interesting. This is going to be an interesting case. Again, I do have an agreement that it is within that statutes of limitations. It's in within that window that she can definitely file this in a criminal court. I think that would if that's the case, I think that she could go ahead and do that. Excuse me. Excuse me. It's late now. My insomnia is wearing off. All right, people. Looks like Club Shay Shay is going to have to Club Shay Shay is going to have to they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do. We've read the statement that he put on his Instagram. We've also read the court filing. We've also read the articles surrounding all of this. I agree. No one should lie to get money. If true, I'll take everything back, but this seems too bizarre. And I guess maybe the way I'm caught up in it, and I'm just speaking from my perspective, that age gap is bizarre for me. It may not be bizarre for y'all, but that age gap is bizarre for me. I just it is what it is. It is what it is. Now, I think that in this suit there are some things that Shannon Sharpe has done that has some inkling of truth, and I think Dre mentioned it earlier before when they were talking about where is it? I'm still waiting for Loyalty to tell me what he said on his podcast. I guess I'll go see it. I'm not going to And she may not, she may not have known who he was. Again, uh, you know, Gen Zers don't know a lot of people in our age group or something like that. Because even though he was famous in football, she may not have known who he was initially, but I'm quite sure she did Google him to let him know so she could figure out who he was. Oh, where is that? Yeah. And see, this was odd. And I thought that this Instagram thing that he did last year, I thought that that was odd. There was, I side-eyed it and I continued to side-eye that Instagram live where you didn't know that you were live while you was in there with Michelle. And you had Michelle in there hollering and screaming and all this other stuff. Uh, I find that it's odd. That was whole odd because again, to go live on Instagram, there's several steps, and then there is a final step to say, "Are you sure you want to go live?" And so I always side eye. I assumed whoever this woman was consensual into knowing that. Because how did it leak? I don't understand. I can't even remember. Oh, it was live. Shut up, Pam. It was live. Um, I thought it was a whole play to sell those erectile dysfunctional medications and stuff like that for the guys. In my generation, we called them red rooster pills. I don't know what they call them now. I know that there's a name for them, but we called them the red rooster pills. So again, I just thought that that was a ploy for him to hawk those sexual enhancement medications that he had. And so I didn't think of anything of it. Uh and I'm only going from what I've known about Shannon Sharpe. I did not know. Oh, I want to look up that New York case. I'll look that up. Okay, because I pulled up Shannon Sharpe's complaint in regards to Brett Favre when Brett Favre was suing Shannon Sharpe about some statements that he said because we found out that Brett Favre was stealing the money so that he could build this. I'm not seeing that. I'll have to take a little bit more time to go through here. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm not seeing the case in New York come up. So, but I'll do a little bit more hunting to see where that is if he's got an active case going on in New York or not. Again, what do you all think about all of this? Seriously. Yeah, again, the issues that plague Gen Z is that, when I was growing up, you had to hunt for the information. You had to actively look for the information. So here with Gen Z, the information is at their fingertips, but it's so much information, it's too much for them to whittle through. So they just rather not deal with it or anything like that. Because, like I said, she probably had the sense that he was a man of means, but she may not have known who he was. Initially, she may not have known who he was. She probably had somebody to tell her who he was. He may have mentioned his name, and she may have just watched the interaction of the other men in the gym to him to kind of gather or garner who he was. But anyway, y'all, that's the lawsuit That's all that I got for this. We're going to see what's going to happen. We're going to see if they settle or not. Again, I went over the article discussing this case. We went actually over the lawsuit and got the details about this case. We've also read the Instagram post of Shannon Sharpe, and we've read the Instagram post of Tony Busby. So we've got a clearer picture of what's going on. Now, whether or not that this case will get moved to trial, I am unsure, but I definitely will be following it. And when I do get that information, I will come back to you all. All right, people, we do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. If you're watching me on X, make sure you hit that heart. If you're watching me on YouTube, please make sure you hit that like button. Y'all, please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye bye.